There are only a few Jedi to have reached legendary status throughout their lifetime. Some were known for their wisdom, while others were legends because of their strength. Meanwhile, there were those who mastered the ways of the Force and were simply gifted with potential. Mace Windu was all of those. Regarded as second only to Grandmaster Yoda among the Jedi, Windu was considered the mightiest just before the Jedi Purge. As mighty as he may have been, however, not even he was safe from the issues that eventually led to the fall of the Jedi and the rise of the Empire. Chapter 1. Early Life and Training. Mace Windu was from the planet Harun Kal, where he was born into a tribe called the Gosh Windu in 72 BBY. He was orphaned at an early age as his parents had died in the jungles of the planet. At just 6 months old, he was alone, left to be raised by the other members of the clan. At that time, there were Jedi who were on the planet to study the fact that all the Corani, the people living on Harun Kal, were capable of touching the Force. After all, legends say that the Corani were descended from Jedi who crashed on that planet thousands of years ago. So, the Jedi anthropologists wanted to see the connection between the Force and this race of people. The anthropologist eventually asked the Windu clan if they could take back one of their children to the Jedi Order to see if the Corani could once again regain their strong connection to the Force. The clan decided to give the infant Windu up to the Jedi Order, not because he had the potential to be strong. Instead, it was simply because he was an orphan. He did not even have a name at that time because his planet's tradition required children to be of a sufficient age before celebrating their naming day. It was only when the baby was taken to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant that he was given the name Mace by the Jedi Order itself. He was to be trained as a Jedi at a very young age. As such, he joined the Jedi Academy, where he learned the ways of the Force along with many other children who also had the potential to become Jedi. However, Windu knew he was different. It was not rare for some Jedi to have unique talents, but Mace's ability to see shatter points in the Force was unlike any other. Shatter points are uncanny points and fault lines within the Force. A Jedi capable of sensing these shatter points could very well manipulate them into their advantage to influence the Force. When applied to people, shatter points could be used to deliver a devastating blow that could end a battle with a single strike, as it allowed the user the ability to see the weakness or the breaking point in the other individual. This did not only apply to people though, as Mace could also see shatter points in physical items, such that striking or affecting a shatter point is similar to targeting the areas that would shatter the object. Only very few in the Jedi Order could sense these shatter points, and Mace put it in the simplest way to describe the unique ability. When I look at you through the Force, I can see where you break. To ensure he would be able to maximize his powers and use his ability wisely, he trained as hard as anyone and learned from the best within the Jedi Order, including Grandmaster Yoda. Then, after passing through the initiate trials, he trained as an apprentice under Master Tarasa. At 14 years old, Windu had reached the top of his class. However, the Jedi Order was concerned about him because he was yet to construct his very own lightsaber. Every time he tried to do so, he felt like he lacked the right crystal for the lightsaber that came to him in his visions. He told the council that he wanted to find the best pieces for his weapon, requiring a challenge. To that end, the council sent the young boy completely on his own to the world of Hurricane. On Hurricane, he tried to negotiate with the locals to get one of their rare crystals. The locals from Hurricane were strange, insect-like beings made entirely out of stone and crystals. However, the negotiations went rather badly, and the locals started to chase after Mace. During their chase, Mace used the Force and saw a shatter point in one of the natives made entirely of stone. Reaching out with the Force, he completely shattered the fragile alien into pieces. However, immediately after seeing the effect of his actions, he turned around and used the Force to reconstruct and heal the local he had just shattered. He was a Jedi, after all. He tried to recall and regretted the action deeply. Grateful for what he had done, the previous hostile natives gifted him with a purple-colored Hurricane crystal, which gave Windu's lightsaber the unique purple color he became notable for. After that, it did not take long for him to progress through his training. As he grew older, Windu went on notable missions that included visiting his homeworld, where he reconnected with his people. Eventually, he passed the Jedi trials and became a notable Jedi Knight. As a full-fledged Jedi, Windu also took many apprentices under his wing, passing down the things he learned from the Jedi who taught him. Chapter 2. The Jedi Master. Thanks in large part to his unique ability to see shatter points and to his incredible work ethic, Mace Windu was widely considered a prodigy whose skills and talents were far above some of his peers. He rose through the ranks quite quickly, even becoming a Jedi Master in the middle of his 20s. During such time, Windu was sent on a mission to rescue the young Depa Billaba and her sister Sar Labuda from pirates. He succeeded and brought the sisters to Coruscant to be trained as Jedi at the Jedi Temple. Billaba went on to become one of his Padawans as Windu's guidance allowed her to progress quickly as a Jedi. Like Windu, Billaba eventually went on to become a Jedi Master and one of the more prominent members of the Jedi Order during its final years. Meanwhile, sometime between 50 BBY and 42 BBY, the Jedi Order received word that Jedi Master Katri, a member of the High Council, had been killed on the planet Raxus Secundus. Knowing there might have been foul play involved, the Council sent two prominent Jedi Masters, Mace Windu and Dooku, to retrieve Katri's body and conduct an investigation. The Jedi Masters were unsatisfied with Senator Larrick's testimony regarding the ambush that killed Katri. While Dooku wanted to conduct his own investigation to get to the bottom of the truth, Windu reminded him that they were not members of the High Council and were not allowed to go against their mandated mission. While Dooku respected Mace both as a colleague and a friend, he said that he was too devoted to the Jedi Protocol, describing his devotion as both inspiring and maddening. They succeeded in retrieving Katri's body and were supposed to return to the Jedi Temple right away. However, Dooku requested they be brought to where the Jedi Master was killed. Windu immediately sensed something wrong with the Raxians, suspecting they were hiding something from them. True enough, they both realized that Katri had been shot from behind by the very Raxian guards sent to escort her. Windu and Dooku worked together to defeat the same guards responsible for Katri's death, eventually learning that the Raxians killed the Jedi Master because they believed the Jedi were protecting the corrupt Senate. Shortly after the skirmish, the two attended Katri's funeral. Windu then informed Dooku that the empty council seat left by Katri had been offered to him and that he would accept it to become a member of the High Council. Dooku grew suspicious of his friend as he believed that Windu took the seat to protect the growingly corrupt Senate. Such an event caused a rift between the two Jedi Masters, eventually contributing to their differing opinions regarding the Republic. As a member of the High Council, Mace was regarded the Jedi Order's greatest champion, often maintaining the Jedi's ancient traditions amidst the growing dissent among different systems throughout the galaxy. He also possessed extensive knowledge of the Jedi Order's history and philosophy, and was widely regarded as one of the two biggest figures within the Order. Of course, the other one was Master Yoda himself. During the early part of his days as a Jedi Master, Windu also created Vaapad, a fighting style that formally became the Jedi's seventh lightsaber form. Normally, Juyo was regarded the seventh form, but was only used by those who tapped into the dark side. Juyo's ultra-aggressive approach often required the user to tap into their emotions, such as anger and hate, pulling them closer to the dark side. However, when Windu started training in Juyo, he noticed that he wasn't getting any closer to the dark side. With the High Council's blessing, he learned how to channel his inner darkness into an offensive style that essentially counteracted the side effects of using Juyo, calling it Vaapad. I created Vaapad to answer my weakness. It channels my own darkness into a weapon of the light. Mace Windu to Obi-Wan Kenobi. During his early years as a member of the Council, Windu was involved in several missions and galactic events, including a sabotage to the Jedi Temple, the Yin-Chori Uprising, and the disappearances of several Jedi. He was even instrumental in Obi-Wan Kenobi's growth as a Jedi after initially believing he was not fit to join their ranks. Chapter 3. The Invasion of Naboo. By 32 BBY, Mace Windu had become the Master of the Order, a title that meant he had become the administrative leader of the Jedi High Council. While the title of Grand Master was reserved for Yoda, who was still the Order's spiritual leader, Windu had become one of the biggest voices within the Jedi. His words and opinions held the same weight as the Green Jedi Master. Windu and the Council then sent Obi-Wan Kenobi, then a Padawan, and his master Qui-Gon Jinn on a diplomatic mission to Naboo, which had been blockaded by the Trade Federation. Unbeknownst to the Jedi Order, the Trade Federation's actions had been orchestrated by the secretive Sith Lord Darth Sidious. The Sith's involvement caused the negotiations to fail, forcing Jinn and Kenobi to escape Naboo with Queen Amidala. Their little misadventure had led them to Tatooine, where they met a young Force-sensitive child named Anakin Skywalker, who helped them get back to Coruscant. Believing him to be the chosen one set to bring balance to the Force, Qui-Gon brought Skywalker back to the Jedi Temple with him. When Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi returned to Coruscant after escaping the blockade of Naboo, they brought troubling reports that unsettled the High Council. Master Jinn revealed that he had been ambushed on the desert world of Tatooine by a dark assassin who wielded a red lightsaber and moved with the skill of a Jedi. Jinn asserted his belief that this warrior was a Sith Lord, but the Council met his claim with skepticism. Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi argued that the Sith had been extinct for a millennium, and Mace Windu insisted that the dark side could not have returned without the Jedi sensing a shift in the Force. Despite these doubts, Windu assured Jinn that the Order would utilize all its resources to unravel the mystery of the attacker. Jinn also presented the Council with the young Anakin Skywalker, telling them that he believed him to be the chosen one due to an unprecedented midichlorian count. Windu ordered the boy tested, and while the Council acknowledged his strong connection to the Force, they ultimately refused to train him because he was too old and filled with fear. Following this tense meeting, Windu personally tested Obi-Wan Kenobi in a sparring match to gauge his readiness for knighthood. Kenobi fought with such precision that he bested the Jedi Master, proving his capabilities. Nevertheless, the Council maintained their ruling on the boy, and Windu dispatched the pair back to Naboo to protect the Queen and unmask the Dark Warrior. The situation turned grave when the Council learned that Qui-Gon Jinn had fallen in battle against the very Sith Lord he had warned them about. Windu and the other Council members traveled to Naboo to oversee the funeral and the victory celebration. Honoring Jinn's dying wish, the Council reversed their decision and granted the newly knighted Kenobi permission to train Skywalker. As the funeral pyre burned, Windu stood beside Yoda and acknowledged the grim reality that the Sith were indeed alive. Yoda reminded him that the Sith always followed the rule of two, meaning a master and an apprentice always existed together. Windu looked into the flames, left to wonder which of the two they had killed and which one remained in the shadows. Chapter 4. Testing Skywalker and Kenobi. Jedi Master Mace Windu was known for his staunch belief in the Jedi Order's dogma, often following the Jedi Code down to the letter. As such, he was often considered one of the biggest critics within the Jedi Order, often giving opinions on matters involving who was worthy to be trained. He famously doubted Obi-Wan Kenobi's own potential to become a Jedi, only for him to eventually retract such doubts. Then, during the invasion of Naboo, he sternly believed that Anakin Skywalker should not be trained as a Jedi, even believing he could be a danger to the Order itself. Despite Windu's objections, Skywalker was allowed to be trained as a Jedi in an unconventional way, as he was too old to be brought into the Jedi Academy on Coruscant. Acceding to Qui-Gon Jinn's final request, Mace and the Council allowed Obi-Wan to take Anakin as his Padawan learner. But the training of Skywalker drew the attention of several people within the Order, including Padawans and Masters alike. It even drew the attention of Chancellor Sheev Palpatine, who had just been elected to the post during the invasion of Naboo. Mace Windu and the rest of the Order noticed that Anakin was especially drawn to lightsaber combat, which was the Vapad Master's area of specialty. He watched with a mixture of intrigue and caution as Anakin Skywalker sparred against a training droid that mimicked the terrifying visage of Darth Maul. While Chancellor Palpatine expressed admiration for the boy's obvious talent in lightsaber combat, Windu focused intently on the aggressive nature of the simulation. The situation quickly deteriorated when Skywalker overheard nearby apprentices mocking him for being a slave to his emotions, causing the young Padawan to lash out and use the Force to snatch their weapons. Kenobi was forced to intervene, yet Windu viewed the incident as further proof that Skywalker remained a complicated case due to his late induction into the Order. When Palpatine offered to assist in guiding the boy, Windu initially declined the offer with polite firmness. However, the Chancellor insisted that the Jedi ultimately reported to the Senate, compelling Windu to concede and allow Skywalker to speak with the politician. Some years later, Windu aided in a complex test of character for Kenobi and Skywalker by conspiring with Yoda and Master Bant Iran to stage a fake kidnapping of the Grand Master. After the many years Kenobi and Skywalker had spent together as a master and apprentice duo, there were still doubts about their preparedness. The Council wanted to see what Obi-Wan could do as a Jedi Knight and as a mentor. Meanwhile, they also showed interest in how far Anakin had reached as a talented apprentice. The duo succeeded in their test, impressing Windu and the Council. As the Clone Wars approached, the High Council felt confident enough to assign Skywalker his first solo mission. Windu publicly regarded the Padawan as an exceptionally skilled warrior, but Kenobi harbored deep concerns that his student's abilities had fed a growing arrogance. Yoda concurred with Kenobi's fear while noting that arrogance had become a common flaw among many Jedi of that era. Despite the valid concerns regarding Skywalker's temperament, Windu reminded Kenobi to keep the ancient prophecy in mind. He believed that if the boy was indeed the Chosen One, he remained their best hope to finally bring balance to the Force. Chapter 5. Prelude to the Clone Wars. In the tumultuous year of 22 BBY, Mace Windu joined Yoda and other prominent members of the High Council for a grave meeting with Supreme Chancellor Palpatine regarding the Confederacy of Independent Systems, otherwise known as the Separatists. Dissent among different systems in the galaxy had been growing ever since the invasion of Naboo. There were plenty of systems separating themselves from the Republic to join the Separatists, putting the Jedi and the Senate in a dire situation. Windu emphasized the fragility of the Republic by noting that the Jedi Order simply did not have enough knights to maintain peace if more systems seceded. Then Senator Padme Amidala arrived following an attempt on her life. She had just survived a bombing on one of the hangars of Coruscant after she had just arrived from Naboo. Amidala accused the former Jedi Count Dooku of orchestrating the attack because he was the man leading the Separatists, who deemed her to be a threat. Despite the mounting tension, Windu defended his old friend by asserting that Dooku was a political idealist and that assassination was completely out of character for him as a former Jedi. The Council then decided to assign Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker to protect the Senator, which led to a chase through Coruscant after a second assassination attempt failed. Following the skirmish, Windu and the Council decided to split the Jedi pair so that Kenobi could track the bounty hunter, while Skywalker escorted Amidala to the safety of Naboo. Before they parted ways, Windu met privately with Yoda and Kenobi to discuss the risks involved with the boy. When Kenobi expressed anxiety about Skywalker facing such a trial on his own, Windu reminded the Knight that the Council trusted the decision and that Skywalker was indeed the Chosen One. Sometime later, Windu entered the private quarters of Grandmaster Yoda and found the ancient Jedi in a state of deep distress. Yoda explained that he sensed a terrible disturbance in the Force filled with pain and death which emanated from young Skywalker. It turned out that Anakin had learned of his mother's kidnapping on Tatooine following visions in his dreams. The young Skywalker had given in to his rage by killing an entire tribe of Tusken Raiders, whose mistreatment of his mother caused her to succumb to her wounds. The crisis escalated when Windu gathered with fellow masters and senators in the Chancellor's office to view a transmission from Kenobi. The investigation had led the Knight to the planet Geonosis, where he discovered that the bounty hunter Jango Fett was involved in the conspiracy. Windu watched grimly as Kenobi revealed that the Trade Federation and major commerce guilds had pledged their massive droid armies to Count Dooku. The situation turned dire when Kenobi was ambushed by droidekas and the transmission was cut short. It became evident to Windu that the political idealism he once ascribed to Dooku had transformed into a dangerous military threat that the Jedi were now forced to confront. Chapter 6. The Clone Wars Erupt. As it became painfully apparent that a military conflict between the Galactic Republic and the Confederacy of Independent Systems was unavoidable, the Jedi Order prepared for the worst. While Obi-Wan Kenobi faced execution on Geonosis, Mace Windu stood with Yoda in the Senate and witnessed Jar Jar Binks grant emergency powers to Supreme Chancellor Palpatine so he could authorize the Grand Army of the Republic. Kenobi had previously revealed to Yoda that former Jedi Master Sifo Dyas had secretly commissioned an army of clones on the planet of Kamino. This army was to serve as the Republic's fighting force against the growing threat from Separatists. Unwilling to wait for the full deployment of the clone army, Windu led a massive Jedi strike force to Geonosis to rescue their captive allies. As Kenobi, Skywalker, and Amidala were facing execution, Windu arrived just in time. He personally infiltrated the execution arena and confronted Count Dooku in a private viewing box, where he perceived his former friend as the shatterpoint of the entire Separatist crisis. Using his unique gift in the Force, Windu realized that striking Dooku down in that instant would end the war before it truly began. He knew that taking down the leader of the Separatists would shift the course of galactic history, considering that Dooku was a significant shatterpoint. This was one of the most significant instances where Mace's ability to see shatterpoints was applied. He did not see a single weakness within a single person. Instead, he perceived Dooku as a shatterpoint within the grander scheme of the galaxy, such that striking him down right then and there could have averted crisis, and many have even foiled the Sith Order's plans. However, his sentimental attachment to the former Jedi caused him to hesitate just long enough for enemy reinforcements to intervene. He did not strike down Dooku when the Sith Lord had his guard down. Instead, he simply ordered his old friend to stand down, eventually allowing backup to aid the Separatist leader. As powerful as the ability to see shatterpoints may be, it has a weakness. Shatterpoints are often temporary. At that single point in time, Dooku was the heart of the war, but missing the opportunity to strike a shatterpoint could mean missing the chance forever. The shatterpoint disappeared as Windu foiled his chance to change history. That was what happened on that fateful encounter between the old friends. Windu's inability to capitalize on the shatterpoint because of a split-second hesitation made him miss the opportunity to end the conflicts right then and there. His hesitation to kill Dooku turned into a skirmish in the arena as Windu was forced to defend himself against the bounty hunter Jango Fett. While Fett was the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy, Mace quickly ended the confrontation by decapitating Fett with a single stroke of his purple blade, as both Count Dooku and Jango's son Boba Fett were surprised with Windu's lack of remorse. But defeating Fett could not save the Jedi from nearly getting overwhelmed by the droid armies. Suddenly, Master Yoda arrived with the clone troopers to rescue the survivors. Windu transitioned from a peacekeeper to a military commander as he took control of a tank to pursue Dooku. But he was intercepted by 3 dark acolytes whose interference allowed the Separatist leader to escape off-world. This failure weighed heavily on Windu because he knew that the opportunity to shatter the conflict had passed. He was later haunted by dreams where he killed Dooku and died an honorable death, which he considered a better outcome than the reality of the Clone Wars. Following the chaotic events on Geonosis, Windu formally ceded the title of Master of the Order to Yoda, who held it alongside his position as Grand Master. He believed that the Jedi Order needed more generals to lead the clones into battle actively. This meant it would be difficult for him to carry out his role as an active combatant together with his administrative duties within the Council. Nevertheless, he was still regarded second only to Yoda in terms of authority and opinion. Then, in the safety of the Jedi High Council chamber, Windu conferred with Yoda and Kenobi regarding a disturbing revelation from the battlefield. Kenobi reported that Dooku had told him the Senate was actually under the control of a Sith Lord known as Darth Sidious, and this news cast a darkness over the Jedi Order as the galaxy plunged into war. Despite knowledge of the Sith's possible involvement in the conflicts, Windu and the rest of the Council focused on the civil war that was set to tear the entire galaxy apart. Chapter 7. The Jedi High General. Several months after the outbreak of the war on Geonosis, Mace Windu had been named a High General of the Grand Army of the Republic. This meant that his authority as a military leader was second to none and could only be matched by the other High Generals, including several members of the Jedi High Council. He then returned to the Moon of Rule to meet with his old friend Sora Bulk, who was leading a group of renegade Jedi in protest against the Order's involvement in the Clone Wars. Shortly after his arrival, the assassin Asajj Ventress ambushed the gathering and killed Bulk's Padawan, claiming she had been sent by Windu himself. While the other Jedi were confused by her deception, Windu investigated the area and discovered Ventress's ship, which led him to realize that Bulk must have allowed her to land. He confronted his old friend, who admitted he had fallen to the dark side and had allied with the Confederacy to discredit the Council. Bulk ignited his weapons to kill Windu, yet the Corran Master proved too powerful and dropped a pile of boulders on the traitor to end the duel quickly. Windu sensed the other Jedi were in danger, so he rushed to their aid, where he found the Jedi Rod Tarn dead at the hands of Ventress. Realizing she could not defeat Windu, the assassin fled into the night, allowing Windu and the surviving Jedi to return to Coruscant, having exposed the treachery. Then, returning to the war, he commanded Systems Army Alpha and the 187th Legion during the Clone Wars, securing a legendary victory at Dantooine. After losing his lightsaber to a seismic tank, he decimated an army of droids with his bare fist before retrieving his weapon, breaching the massive machine, and destroying it from within. But as the Clone Wars progressed, the High Council learned of a new enemy who had been shifting the tide toward the Separatist side. General Grievous, a former Kaleesh warrior that had been turned into a cyborg, had been decimating the Republic's armies in different systems, killing Jedi Knights and apprentices alike. Trained in the Jedi arts by Count Dooku, despite his lack of Force sensitivity, the cyborg's hatred toward the Jedi Order and natural gifts as a warrior allowed him to best skilled combatants. As Grievous rampaged through the galaxy, the Council considered elevating Padawans to strengthen the Order and to replenish their ranks quickly. Obi-Wan Kenobi recommended that Anakin Skywalker forego the trials, a controversial idea given the boy's reckless history. Although several masters objected to his lack of discipline, Yoda eventually decided to grant Skywalker the rank of Knight. Chapter 8. The War Rages On. Following Anakin Skywalker's elevation to the ranks of the Jedi, the war continued on with no end in sight. Suddenly, the Jedi Council discovered that the enemy possessed a mysterious weapon capable of destroying entire fleets. They dispatched Master Plo Koon to the Abrogado system to investigate. Silence soon followed, and the Council feared the worst for their colleague. During a tense gathering, Windu, Yoda, Kenobi, and Chancellor Palpatine discussed the grim probability of Koon's death. However, young Ahsoka Tano, who had just been named Skywalker's Padawan, stood before them and voiced her dissent, arguing that Master Koon was likely still alive since no survivors had been reported, implying that he was resilient enough to endure. Though the Council ordered Skywalker and Tano to remain with the defensive fleet, the two defied the mandate. They scoured the debris field of the destroyed fleet and successfully rescued Plo Koon. When the Council learned of his disobedience, they were furious, yet Yoda noted with a hint of amusement that the duo had become twice the trouble they once were. Then the war took a bizarre turn when Windu learned that Count Dooku had been captured by pirates on Florum. The pirate leader, Hondo Ohnaka, contacted the Republic, demanding a ransom in spice. While Palpatine was skeptical of the claim, Yoda confirmed that the lightsaber displayed by the pirates belonged to his former student. Seeing a rare chance to capture the Sith Lord, the Council sent Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi to Florum to verify the prisoner and arrange the transfer. Following that event involving the pirates, the focus of the war soon shifted to the oppression of the Twi'lek people. Responding to a plea from the Senate, the Council organized a massive campaign to liberate the planet Ryloth. Skywalker and Tano were tasked with breaking the Separatist blockade, a feat that initially resulted in heavy losses. Master Windu warned Skywalker that he had only a single rotation to clear the skies before the invasion force arrived. Using unconventional tactics, Skywalker succeeded, paving the way for the ground assault. Kenobi then led his forces to secure the landing zone at Nabat, destroying the proton cannons that threatened the Republic transports. With the landing secured, Windu led the march toward the capital city of Lesu. Realizing his forces were stretched too thin for a direct assault, Windu knew he needed the support of the Twi'lek freedom fighters. He utilized his considerable negotiation skills to forge an alliance between the freedom leader Cham Syndulla and the Republic Senator Orn Free-Taa. Despite their mutual trust, Windu united them against their common enemy. With the combined strength of the clones and the freedom fighters, they retook Lesu and captured the Separatist leader, Wat Tambor. There was little rest for the Jedi, as Windu was soon deployed to Juma 9 to rescue captured Masters Plo Koon and Obi-Wan Kenobi. With the aid of Kit Fisto, Windu reclaimed the station and freed his comrades. Their rest was cut short by a message from Senator Amidala, who had located a massive Separatist foundry on Bepor. The Jedi launched an immediate strike. While Skywalker and Kenobi created a diversion, Windu and Tano waited for the shields to fall before leading a charge with heavy walkers. Inside the facility, Windu and Kenobi confronted Count Dooku once more. They combined their strength to overpower the Sith Lord, though Dooku managed to escape into the depths of the factory. Despite his escape, the Jedi succeeded in destroying the facility and rescuing the Senator, striking another blow against the tyranny of the Separatists. Following the First Battle of Felucia, Mace Windu presided over a disciplinary council session regarding Padawan Ahsoka Tano. Tano admitted she had refused orders from Obi-Wan Kenobi, and was subsequently assigned to guard duty at the Jedi Archives. This punishment placed her in a key position when Master Yoda sensed a dark disturbance indicating intruders were infiltrating the temple. When Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker hunted the intruders through the ventilation systems, Windu remained in the communication center with Yoda and other masters to monitor the situation. The intruder was the infamous bounty hunter Cad Bane, who had employed a changeling to sabotage the archives from within. To cover his tracks, Bane sent his droid Todo 360 into the communication center with a bomb hidden inside its chassis. Reacting with the shattering speed for which he was known, Windu used the Force to hurl the droid back into the ventilation shaft moments before it detonated. Although Windu's quick thinking saved the lives of the council members present, the explosion provided enough cover for Bane to steal a vital Jedi holocron from the vault. The crisis deepened as Bane sought a Kyber memory crystal to unlock the holocron's list of Force-sensitive children. After the death of Master Bolo Rapal and the coerced cooperation of Skywalker, the list fell into enemy hands. Windu joined Yoda and Kenobi in deep meditation to predict the Hunter's next moves. Mace correctly sensed the child on Glee Anselm was in danger, but the Jedi were unable to prevent the kidnapping of that infant or another on Rhodia. Fortunately, Skywalker and Tano managed to save a Gungan child and finally apprehended Bane. Desperate to recover the stolen children, Windu and Kenobi interrogated the captive Hunter regarding the location of his hostages. When Bane refused to speak, Windu observed that the Hunter feared his Sith employer far more than he feared the Jedi Council. To break his resolve, Windu, Kenobi, and Skywalker simultaneously used the Force on Bane's mind. The agonizing process nearly destroyed the Hunter's mind, but successfully forced him to lead the Masters to Blackstall Station under the pretense of returning the stolen items. The mission to the station proved to be a trap designed to separate the Jedi from their prisoner. When Windu attempted to retrieve the holocron, he triggered a security system that allowed Bane to escape into the void of space. Despite his failure, the Jedi reclaimed the holocron, and Skywalker's team successfully located and rescued the captive younglings at a separate facility. In the aftermath, Windu sought to console Tyson Zabek, the grieving Padawan of the late Master Ropal. True to his stoic nature, Windu urged Zabek to view the death as honorable service to the Republic. But his hardened philosophy offered little comfort to the mourning student. Chapter 9. New and Familiar Threats. During the height of the Clone Wars, Mace Windu found himself leading Republic forces during the critical Battle of Malastare alongside Anakin Skywalker. Their objective was to drive the Separatist droid army out of the system and secure a vital fuel treaty with the Dug population. To turn the tide of the battle, the Republic utilized a devastating new electroproton bomb developed by Dr. Sionver Ball. While the weapon succeeded in disabling the droid army without harming organic life, the resulting explosion caused the ground to collapse into a massive crater. Windu led an investigation squad into the depths of the sinkhole, where he discovered the Zillo Beast, a legendary predator the Dugs believed was long extinct. The discovery sparked an immediate political and ethical conflict. The Dugs demanded the creature's destruction as a condition for the treaty, while Windu and the Jedi advocated for preserving its life. In a private council, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine proposed a compromise to incapacitate the beast and transport it for study, a plan Windu accepted to prevent the Dugs from killing it. However, the decision proved disastrous when the beast was brought to Coruscant. Despite Windu's efforts to rally a defense alongside Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi, the creature broke free and rampaged toward the Senate. Windu commanded the clone pilots to use stun tanks, but the beast's armor was impervious to their standard weaponry. Ultimately, the Jedi were forced to allow the use of toxic gas bombs, killing the ancient creature to save the city. Not too long after the Zillo Beast incident, shadows of the past eventually caught up with the Jedi Master during a tour of the Star Destroyer Endurance. Windu and Skywalker were aboard to mentor clone cadets, unaware that a young Boba Fett had infiltrated the group to exact revenge for the death of his father, Jango Fett. After a failed bombing attempt on Windu's quarters killed a clone trooper instead, the young bounty hunter sabotaged the ship's reactor. The resulting explosion crippled the vessel, forcing the crew to evacuate while the burning hull crashed onto the surface of Vancor. During the subsequent search of the wreckage, Skywalker discovered a Mandalorian helmet on the bridge. Windu immediately recognized it as belonging to Jango Fett, but his warning came too late. The helmet was rigged with explosives, and the blast trapped both Jedi under tons of twisted debris. While Windu and Skywalker lay injured in the dark, R2-D2 managed to evade Fett and his bounty hunter accomplices to signal for help. The two masters were eventually rescued by Plo Koon and Ahsoka Tano just before the Endurance collapsed completely. Windu later confronted the captured Boba Fett, seeing that the boy's heart was filled with the same hatred that had consumed his father. Meanwhile, as darkness continued to rise across the galaxy, the Jedi received word of a brutal massacre at the Temple of Edith on Deveron. Windu reviewed holographic footage of the slaughter, which revealed a Dathomirian Zabrak wielding the dark side with terrifying proficiency. While Kenobi initially suspected the return of Darth Maul, Windu and Yoda deduced that this was a new threat named Savage Opress, a warrior connected to the Night Sisters of Dathomir. This investigation soon revealed a far grimmer truth, as Windu learned that Qui-Gon Jinn's killer had indeed survived his duel on Naboo. The Council watched a holographic message from Darth Maul, who had slaughtered innocent civilians on Raydonia, to draw Kenobi out. Windu argued that Kenobi should not face the Sith Lords alone, and insisted on sending an armed task force to assist him. However, Yoda believed Kenobi had to confront his past personally. As the war progressed, Windu watched the casualty list grow, eventually learning that the rampage of Maul and Savage Opress had claimed the lives of several Jedi, including Master Adigalia. During a debriefing in the Chancellor's office, Windu stood stoically as Palpatine dismissed the Sith threat as a personal vendetta, though Windu knew that the return of the Sith foreshadowed a much darker future for the Republic. Chapter 10: The Ahsoka Tano Crisis. Unbeknownst to the Jedi Order, they had a growing threat within their ranks. Suddenly, a violent explosion tore through the hangar bay of the Jedi Temple. This act of terror killed 6 Jedi and several clone troopers and temple workers. In the chaotic aftermath of the attack, Mace Windu immediately sought to uncover the truth behind the devastation. He assigned an analysis droid to scour the crime scene, while the High Council issued a recall order for Anakin Skywalker and his Padawan Ahsoka Tano, who were stationed on the battlefronts of Cato Neimoidia. The Council believed that an impartial perspective was required to investigate the matter without cloud of bias. When Skywalker and Tano arrived on Coruscant, Windu briefed them on the gravity of the situation. The Council feared that a fallen Jedi was responsible for the attack given the growing anti-Jedi sentiment spreading across the galaxy. Windu instructed the pair to conduct their investigation strictly based on evidence rather than intuition. Their efforts eventually led to the capture of Letta Termund, who was the wife of a temple worker. It was revealed that she had manipulated her husband into acting as a living bomb. With the perpetrator seemingly in custody, Windu stood alongside the other members of the High Council to pay their final respects at a funeral for the fallen Jedi. However, the tranquility did not last long. Termund requested a private audience with Ahsoka Tano, only to be mysteriously killed via forced choke while inside her cell. The situation was catastrophic as Tano was found standing over the body. The Padawan escaped custody and fled into the depths of the Coruscant underworld to prove her innocence. The Council held an emergency session to debate their next course of action. While Master Plo Koon and Skywalker believed in her innocence, the majority of the Council felt the evidence was too heavy against Ahsoka. Windu voiced his refusal to let Skywalker lead the hunt, fearing his attachment to his apprentice would cloud his judgment, but he eventually conceded to Obi-Wan Kenobi's reasoning that Skywalker was their best hope of finding her. Skywalker and Plo Koon eventually captured Tano in the lower levels and brought her back to the surface. The situation escalated when Admiral Tarkin contacted the Council and demanded that Tano be expelled from the Order to face a military tribunal rather than an internal Jedi trial. Obi-Wan Kenobi urged the Council to stand their ground against the Senate, but Windu took a pragmatic yet harsh stance. He argued that the Jedi could not afford to oppose the Galactic Senate during such a tumultuous war, as doing so would shatter the public's waning trust in the Order. This was one of the things Count Dooku predicted long ago when Windu accepted his role within the Jedi High Council. He feared that the Jedi Master would focus more on politicking and protecting the Senate instead of actually living up to what the Jedi Order stood for. The fact that Windu chose to protect the Jedi Order's relationship with the Senate instead of defending Ahsoka Tano was proof of how far the High Council had fallen. Meanwhile, in the Chamber of Judgment, Windu sat alongside Yoda and the other Masters as Tano pleaded her innocence. She claimed she was being framed, but when pressed by the Council regarding her illicit association with the bounty hunter Asajj Ventress, her defense crumbled. Windu solemnly delivered the Council's verdict. He declared that Tano had committed sedition and was to be formally expelled from the Jedi Order. She was stripped of her rank and Padawan braids before being handed over to the Republic for a criminal trial. During the subsequent tribunal presided over by Chancellor Palpatine, Windu watched from the gallery as the prosecution demanded the death penalty. Just as the verdict was to be read, Anakin Skywalker burst into the courtroom with the true mastermind in custody. It was revealed to be the Jedi Knight Barriss Offee, who confessed to bombing the temple to protest the Jedi's role in the war. The revelation stunned Windu and the Council, proving Tano's innocence beyond a shadow of a doubt. Back in the High Council chamber, the Masters attempted to make amends. They welcomed Tano back and apologized for their lack of faith. Windu attempted to frame the tragic series of events as a spiritual journey, suggesting that this was actually her great trial, and that by surviving it, she had proven herself worthy of becoming a true Jedi. However, his words failed to heal the wound of betrayal. Tano refused their offer to return. Despite Skywalker's desperate pleas, she turned her back on the Council and walked away from the Jedi Order forever. The Ahsoka Tano incident showed a microcosm of what the High Council had become. While Windu and the rest of his council members only wanted what was best for the Jedi Order and the Republic, it had become clear that they had become blind to the true problems plaguing the Senate and the Republic as a whole. The politicking disenfranchised several Jedi, including Ahsoka herself. Yet this seemed like a minor problem to Mace Windu, whose focus was on winning the war and protecting the Senate instead of staying true to their dogma as keepers of the peace. Chapter 11. The Battle of Coruscant. In the days leading up to the decisive confrontation between the Republic and the Separatists, the Jedi Order recovered an item that could very well give them the advantage not only against the droid army, but also the Sith Order. It was a Mechno chair that once belonged to the Trade Federation's Viceroy Newt Gunray, and it served as a direct link to the hidden Dark Lord of the Sith. While Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi departed to investigate the chair's origins, Mace Windu collaborated with Grandmaster Yoda and Republic intelligence to decipher the device's encrypted transmissions. If they were to find out where the chair came from and where it was transmitting its messages, Windu and the Jedi could hunt down the Sith Lord responsible for manipulating the war, possibly delivering a decisive blow to their ancient enemies once and for all. They successfully intercepted a message from General Grievous regarding a planned attack on Belderone. Although this intelligence allowed for an evacuation, the Jedi realized that their enemies would soon deduce the chair was in Jedi custody. Shortly thereafter, Windu and Yoda met with Supreme Chancellor Palpatine to discuss the situation and their ongoing hunt for Darth Sidious, but they remained unaware that the Chancellor was actually the Sith Lord in disguise. Neither Windu nor Yoda were powerful enough in the Force to suspect that the man they had been taking orders from was actually the very same person orchestrating their fall. Ironically, they succeeded in their hunt for Darth Sidious without them knowing it. Meanwhile, as the search intensified, Windu and Master Shaak Ti led a strike team into the industrial depths of the works where they suspected Sidious maintained a secret lair. Their investigation took them deep beneath the massive 500 replica tower, but they were forced to disengage when the skies filled with Separatist ships and the Battle of Coruscant began. As the Clone Wars neared their violent conclusion, the Separatist Supreme Commander General Grievous launched a desperate and massive assault on Coruscant itself, as the Separatists were already desperate enough to turn the tide of war to their favor. Master Windu took to the skies in his personal interceptor during the chaos, cutting through the Separatist aerial forces while the other Jedi were on the ground to defend the capital planet. When his own vessel was compromised, he abandoned it in midair and commandeered a droid ship to continue the fight, eventually finding himself atop a speeding maglev train where he engaged General Grievous in single combat. Windu overpowered the cyborg and knocked him from the transport, yet the battle was far from over. He regrouped with Master Yoda on the ground to hold the line against the endless waves of battle droids, but they both soon sensed a deception at play. It became evident that the invasion was merely a distraction designed to facilitate the kidnapping of Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. Windu attempted to intercept Grievous before he could escape with the Chancellor, using the Force to crush the General's chest plates and internal organs. While this devastating blow created the wheezing cough that plagued Grievous for the remainder of his life, it did not stop his escape, as the cyborg was still strong enough to elude the Jedi with the Chancellor in his custody. Grievous escaped to the airspace just outside Coruscant, taking Palpatine to Count Dooku's flagship. Realizing they still had a chance to prevent the Separatists from using the Chancellor as a bargaining chip, the Jedi High Council sent Obi-Wan and Anakin to Dooku's flagship in a daring rescue mission. Kenobi and Skywalker successfully rescued Palpatine and eliminated Dooku in the process. However, the political landscape of the Republic continued to darken. The Senate had voluntarily surrendered much of its authority to Palpatine, allowing him to rule with near-dictatorial powers. Mace Windu viewed these developments with deep suspicion and noted that the Chancellor's grip on the Republic tightened even as the war wound down. When Windu and a delegation of senators greeted the rescued Chancellor, Palpatine insisted that his emergency powers must remain in place until General Grievous was destroyed. Windu responded that the Jedi would make the elimination of the cyborg general their highest priority, hoping this would finally remove Palpatine's excuse for holding on to power. The relationship between the High Council and the Office of the Chancellor deteriorated rapidly, especially after Palpatine appointed Anakin Skywalker as his personal representative on the Council. Windu and the other Masters were startled by this breach of protocol, but they allowed Skywalker to take a seat. However, Windu famously denied the young Jedi the rank of Master, a decision that sowed seeds of distrust in Skywalker's mind, as the young Jedi believed Windu and the High Council were simply jealous of his relationship with Palpatine and his growing strength in the Force. The tension within the temple grew when the Council decided to use Skywalker's close relationship with the Chancellor to their advantage. They instructed Kenobi to ask Skywalker to spy on Palpatine, a move that sat uncomfortably with all involved. Windu expressed his own reservations to Kenobi as they escorted Yoda to a gunship bound for Kashyyyk, admitting that he did not trust Skywalker and felt it was dangerous to put him so close to the Chancellor. Kenobi tried to defend his former student, but the doubt remained in Windu's mind. Shortly after this exchange, Skywalker continued meeting the Chancellor, learning more about him and his secret knowledge of the Sith's history. The two eventually grew closer as Palpatine trusted Skywalker enough to tell him to personally deliver intelligence to the Council about Grievous's location. Anakin revealed that the cyborg general was hiding on the sinkhole planet of Utapau. He also conveyed Palpatine's request that Skywalker be the one to lead the assault. Windu immediately rejected this interference and asserted that the Council alone determined mission parameters. The Masters voted to send Obi-Wan Kenobi instead, citing his experience and temperament as better suited for capturing the elusive general. As the siege of the Outer Rim continued, Commander Cody reported that General Kenobi had successfully engaged Grievous on Utapau. Windu instructed Skywalker to deliver this news to the Chancellor, specifically ordering him to gauge Palpatine's reaction for any sign of treachery. Once Skywalker departed, Windu gathered with Masters Yoda and Ki-Adi-Mundi to discuss the grim reality facing the Order. He sensed that the dark side of the Force surrounded the Chancellor, and he feared a plot to destroy the Jedi was already in motion. Ki-Adi-Mundi suggested that if Palpatine refused to step down after Grievous's death, the Jedi would have to remove him from office. Windu agreed with this pragmatic but dangerous conclusion, acknowledging that the Jedi might have to take temporary control of the Senate to ensure a peaceful transition. The plan weighed heavily on them as it bordered on treason, yet they saw no other path to save the Republic. However, the truth was that Mace Windu had already sensed a number of Shatterpoints connected to Anakin. His doubts regarding Skywalker's allegiance were essentially the Shatterpoints talking to him, telling him to be cautious about this dynamic between the Chosen One and the Supreme Chancellor. While he did not see the Chancellor himself as a Shatterpoint, he saw Palpatine's trust in Anakin as a web of Shatterpoints that were all connected to the Chosen One himself. He realized that Skywalker could be the key to ending the war and defeating the Sith, giving him more reasons to install Anakin as a spy to the mysterious Chancellor. Eventually, the moment of truth arrived when confirmation of General Grievous's destruction reached the temple. Windu prepared to march on the Senate to demand Palpatine's resignation, believing the war was effectively over. Before he could leave, a visibly shaken Anakin Skywalker returned from the Chancellor's office with the most terrifying news imaginable. Anakin's time with Palpatine had allowed him to learn that the Chancellor was immensely knowledgeable in the dark side of the Force, making it clear that he was the one who had been manipulating the war from the shadows. Yet, as Anakin struggled to digest this information, his dilemma intensified after learning that the dark side of the Force could very well prevent his nightmares from coming true. In the days leading up to the end of the war, Anakin had been struggling to sleep because he often dreamt about the death of his secret wife, Padme Amidala. He sought to find a way to prevent this from happening, still reeling from his inability to prevent the death of his own mother after dreaming of her death years ago. Palpatine was aware of such dreams, using them to his advantage by feeding Skywalker with the idea that the dark side was the pathway to powers the Jedi would believe to be unnatural. Yet, as he was struggling with his own personal conflicts, Anakin revealed to Mace Windu that Palpatine was the Sith Lord they had been hunting for over a decade. The realization confirmed the Council's worst fears, and Windu knew immediate action was required. He ordered Skywalker to remain in the Council chambers, sensing the conflict and confusion within the young knight. However, he parted ways with Anakin, telling him that he had earned his trust. Windu then summoned 3 of the Order's most capable swordsmen to his side. Masters Kit Fisto, Saesee and Agen Kolar joined him on the gunship platform. Windu addressed their concerns as they boarded the transport, preparing himself for the confrontation that would decide the fate of the galaxy. They flew toward the massive Senate building, ready to arrest the man who had manipulated the entire war from the shadows. Chapter 12. Confronting the Sith Lord to the death. Mace Windu quickly led the 3 other Jedi Masters to march into the Chancellor's office with determination to arrest Palpatine for his crimes against the Republic. Windu stepped forward to declare that the Chancellor was under arrest and would face trial before the Senate, but Palpatine defiantly proclaimed that he was the Senate. The Dark Lord finally shed his disguise as he ignited a crimson lightsaber and leaped through the air with a terrifying battle cry that caught the Jedi off guard. Agen Kolar fell instantly into a stab wound, while Saesee was cut down before he could react to the sudden explosion of violence. Kit Fisto and Mace Windu managed to defend themselves against the initial onslaught, but the sheer intensity of Darth Sidious proved too much for Fisto to handle. The Nautolan Master's mastery of Shicho was overwhelmed by the Sith Lord's ferocious speed and dark aggression, and he fell with a slash across his waist, dying with his signature smile and leaving Windu to face the darkness alone. Windu stood his ground against the most powerful Sith Lord in history because his unique fighting style of Vaapad allowed him to channel his opponent's inner darkness against him. That was one of the advantages of his mastery over the Jedi Order's version of Form 7. Normally, the regular version of Form 7, Juyo, relied on the user's aggression and emotions, channeling them into powerful and aggressive strikes. While Juyo was offensively superior compared to any other lightsaber form because of its unpredictability, it forced the user to use the darkness within them, drawing them closer to the dark side. This was the very reason the Jedi Order forbade the use of Juyo within its ranks. Windu, however, developed Vaapad as the antithesis to Juyo. His unique ability to withstand his own raw and negative emotions allowed him to use Form 7 without succumbing to the dark side. Yet while he had mastered this form, only those who knew how to control their emotions were effective at using Vaapad, making it a rare form practiced within the Jedi Order. Of course, as dangerous as this form could be to the user despite minimizing its drawbacks, Vaapad also had one other unique advantage. Vaapad channeled the user's darkness into a controlled and disciplined state of combat flow that combined aggression with calmness, but it also had the ability to channel its enemy's own darkness against them, essentially negating the dark side's own advantages. When applied against a practitioner of the dark side of the Force and a master of Juyo, Vaapad could redirect the dark side against its user, making it the perfect lightsaber form to combat the aggression of someone as powerful as Darth Sidious. Palpatine had raw power and hatred on his side as he dueled Mace Windu, who was arguably the greatest lightsaber combatant within the Jedi Order. He could have won against any other Jedi, as seen from the fact that he made quick work of 3 other Jedi Masters in a matter of a few seconds. However, Vaapad gave Windu all the advantages he needed in that duel against the hate-driven Sith Lord. The 2 duelists traded blows in a blur of motion that shattered the office window and brought them to the edge of the towering building. Windu eventually gained the upper hand and disarmed Sidious, forcing the Sith Lord into a corner where he unleashed a torrent of Force lightning that Windu deflected back with his purple blade. The Jedi Master believed he had won and prepared to deliver the final blow to end the Sith dominance once and for all, but he failed to account for the confusion within Anakin Skywalker. Skywalker arrived and intervened in a moment of desperate panic. While he had been ordered to stay inside the temple, he disobeyed the High Council because his emotional dilemma eventually overcame his logic. He still believed Sidious had the ability to save Padme from death, convincing him that Palpatine needed to stay alive. Windu tried to reason with Anakin while Skywalker tried to use Jedi protocol against him, telling him it was not the Jedi way to kill an unarmed man. Mace hung on to the belief that Sidious was far too dangerous to be kept alive. The Jedi Master's decision was final. He wanted to strike down the weakened and disarmed Sith Lord right then and there. Anakin relented, telling Windu that he needed Sidious alive. So as the Jedi Master was about to strike Palpatine down, Anakin sprung into action and severed Windu's hand, causing his lightsaber to plummet into the depths of Coruscant. Windu realized too late that he had been so focused on the shatter point of the Sith Lord that he completely missed the shatter point within the young Jedi Knight. Sidious unleashed his full power with a sadistic smile on his face and blasted raw, dark side energy through Windu's defenseless body. The force of the lightning lifted the Jedi Master from the floor and hurled him out of the shattered window into the endless cityscape below. At 53 years old, Mace Windu fell to his death after decades of dedicated service to the Jedi Order and the Republic. His death marked a catastrophic turning point for the galaxy, as it removed the one Jedi capable of defeating Sidious and secured the allegiance of Anakin Skywalker. This singular event transformed the conflicted young knight into Darth Vader and signaled the beginning of the Great Jedi Purge. The order that Windu had fought so hard to protect crumbled almost instantly after his demise paved the way for the rise of the Galactic Empire. However, it was also Windu's staunch devotion to the Jedi Order and its loyalty to the Republic that helped cause the downfall of the Jedi itself. He was too busy adhering to the Jedi's allegiance to the Senate that he forgot about the fact that the Jedi were supposed to be keepers of the peace instead of the protectors of a Republic that had become too corrupt for its own good. It was irony at its finest. Mace Windu could perceive shatter points within the Force and see things no other Jedi could see. Yet, if he had just used his own eyes instead, he could have seen the darkness that had been festering within the Republic before it all but took over the entire galaxy and delivered it in the hands of the Sith. With these ending quotes, the story of the greatest Jedi of the Republic ends.